Now, First World War. It is a 20th century event, a deadly combat in which major countries of the world were involved. The war had spanned for 4 years from 1914 to 1918. The two warring groups were the Allied powers and the Central powers. Allied powers had countries like Britain, France, Russia, USA. Central powers mainly included Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey. So, uh, it was a very deadly event. It may involved major countries of the world. It was a 20th century event. Right now, we are living in the 21st century. So, this is the 20th century, and it the span for from 1914 to 1918. The two warring groups were Allied powers and Central powers. Now, Allied powers are BRAF. Okay, BRAF. BRUF. BRAF. Britain, France, Russia, USA. Britain, France, Russia, USA. Allied powers, BRAF. And Central powers are Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey. The trio: Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey. Probably Austria Hungary will leave the Central powers and something of this sort will happen. Let's see. Immediate cause. Immediate cause was the Sarajevo crisis. War had started with the Sarajevo crisis. Archduke Francis Ferdinand, Prince of Austria-Hungary, on a visit to Sarajevo, was killed by Gavrilo Princip, a member of Black Hand. So Black Hand was a group of terrorists. It is not mentioned here, but I remember Black Hand was a group of terrorists, and one of the members of that group was Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip killed Archduke Francis Ferdinand, the Prince of Austria-Hungary, once he visited Sarajevo. Austria held Serbia responsible, made 11 demands. Serbia accepted all demands apart from those that affected its sovereignty. Not satisfied, Austria attacked Serbia, which led to the start of the war. So what happened is the immediate cause was Sarajevo crisis. So Gavrilo Princip was a member of Black Hand, and he killed the Prince of Austria-Hungary, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, when he visited to Sarajevo. And Austria held Serbia responsible for this murder and made 11 demands. Serbia accepted all demands apart from those that affected its sovereignty. So Austria wasn't satisfied sort of satisfied by the fulfillments of demands, unfulfillment of the demands. So Austria attacked Serbia, which led to the start of the war. Now, long-term causes. So this was the immediate cause, but some causes were long-term as well. So the long-term causes are aggressive nationalism, imperialism, militarism. Now, long-term causes: aggressive nationalism. Aggressive nationalism meant love for one's own country and hatred for others. So, nationalism up to an extent is good, but aggressive nationalism, that only my country is great and the other countries are very bad, and abhorrence towards the other countries, it is not good. So aggressive nationalism meant love for one's own country and hatred for others. Under its influence, countries of Europe only wanted the best. They were looking for colonies and overseas territories, economic power, and global status. So countries of Europe, they were determined to get economic power, global status, overseas territories, colonies. All wanted imperialism. Imperialism. All wanted an increase in military powers. This in turn caused mutual hatred, suspicions, and tensions, and led to World War One. So, some examples are given of this aggressive nationalism. Germany hoped to dominate the world. France wanted the return of Alsace and Lorraine. Serbia wanted to create a pan-Slavic empire in the Balkan region. Unsatisfied nationalist spirit of the Poles, Bulgarians, and Austria-Hungary in the Balkan region. So, aggressive nationalism means love for one's own country and hatred for others. So, under its influence, countries of Europe wanted global status, power, overseas territories, colonies. Everybody wanted imperialism, everybody wanted an increase in military powers, and this caused mutual hatred, suspicion, and tensions. So, examples: Germany hoped to dominate the world, Serbia wanted the return of Alsace and Lorraine. Serbia wanted to create a pan Slavic empire in the Balkan region. There were unsatisfied nationalist spirit of the Poles, Bulgarians, and Austria-Hungary. Now imperialism. So everybody wanted imperialism, that imperialism. So countries took over other countries to get stronger. Colonies provided raw materials as well as ready markets to the industrialized countries of Europe. They were very essential. The placement of full stops and commas are extremely incorrect. So, colonies provided raw materials as well as ready markets to the industrialized countries of Europe, and they were very essential. So, countries followed imperialism. Those with less colonies were unhappy with those with more colonies. Example: newly industrialized countries like Germany, Italy, Japan resented the large scale colonial possessions of Britain and France. So, colonies provided raw materials as well as ready markets to the industrialized countries of Europe. They were very essential. So, countries followed imperialism. So, those with less colonies were unhappy with those with more colonies. Example: newly industrialized countries like Germany, Italy, and Japan resented the large scale colonial possessions of Britain and France. Newly industrialized countries like Germany, Italy, and Japan resented the large-scale colonial possessions of Britain and France. This dispute of colonies was a major cause of the war. Now, militarism. Search for economic power and global status and imperialism had made countries militant. Dispute over colonies was a major cause of the war. Now, militarism. Search for economic power, global status, and imperialism had made countries militant. It had started a race of arms, so to say, and the peculiar feature of this race was that the moment one country increased its arms, the other countries also felt the need to do so. So, militarism was basically, it was based on search for economic power and global status, and this search for economic power and global status had made the countries militant. It started an arms race in which if one country increased its arms, the other countries would also do so. Example: peace and balance of power was threatened by the arms race of Britain and Germany. Peace and balance of power was threatened by the arms race of Britain and Germany. Now, each tried to outdo the other by building deadly battleships, dreadnoughts, or was the case of Germany by digging the Kiel Canal. Many grammatical mistakes are there, or in the case of Germany, it should have been on, or as was the case of Germany is not grammatically correct. So everybody tried to surpass one another by building deadly battleships, dreadnoughts, and in the case of Germany, Germany digged the Kiel Canal. The arms race was therefore an important cause of the war. Now, alliances. Alliances are on the eve of the war. Major countries of Europe were part of some alliance or the other. Two such major alliances were the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. Tension and disputes between the partners in each group was a major cause of the war. Example: dispute between Germany and France over Alsace and Lorraine. naval dispute between Germany and Britain. So alliances were formed. The two major alliances were Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. Now I told you to remember BRAF. BRAF was the allied powers, right? So except the US, BRUF, BRAF, Britain, Russia, USA, France. So exclude the US and you will get the Triple Entente. Britain, France, Russia. So this would also be like BRUF only. Okay, that is BRUF and this is BRF. And triple alliances, of course, the triple alliance is the same as the Central Powers, Germany, Austria Hungary. Oh no, sorry. It Central Powers included Germany, Austria Hungary, and Turkey. And triple alliance included Germany, Austria Hungary, and Italy. So here it is Turkey and here it is Italy. In case of Central Powers means Turkey is a part of Central Powers and your hmm, what is this? Italy is a part of Triple Alliance. Tensions and disputes between the partners in each group was the major cause of war. The dispute between Germany and France over Alsace and Lorraine and major, naval dispute between Germany and Britain are the two examples. The war was brought to a close in 1918 with the defeat of Central Powers. So this First World War, the causes we read about the causes. The causes were the immediate cause was the Sarajevo crisis, and two other causes were imperialism and militarism. In the imperialism, we have our the we have these things. Colonies provided raw materials as well as ready markets to the industrialized countries of Europe. Those with less colonies were happy, whenever unhappy with those with more colonies. Newly industrialized countries like Germany, Italy resented the large-scale colonial possessions of Britain and France. So Britain had and France had a lot of colonial possessions, large-scale colonial possessions, and Germany, Italy, and Japan resented this. Okay, and dispute over colonies was also a major cause. And in the militarism, the arms race we have read about it earlier. Also, armament race that if one country increases its arms, then the other country also feel the need to do so. So and also Kiel Canal of the Germany. Okay, so the deadly battleships, the dreadnoughts, these were built. Okay, these were built, and this had to be stored somewhere. So Germany digged the Kiel Canal for the storage of these battleships, dreadnoughts. Okay, and we read about the alliances, and we also pointed out that Germany, Austria Hungary, and Turkey are the Central Powers, and Germany, Austria Hungary, and Italy are Triple Alliance, and Triple Entente are Britain, France, Russia. Right now, the war was brought to a close in 1918 with the defeat of the Central Powers. Now, the Central Powers, which are the Austria Hungary, uh, Germany, and Turkey. Central powers had included Germany, Austria Hungary, and Turkey. These countries got defeated. Russia had pulled out a year before by the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Uh, the meaning is not very clear. USA had joined in after the passenger liner Lusitania was sunk by a German boat. Lusitania. Okay, so I think Lusitania is a kind of a ship. So USA had joined in after the passenger liner Lusitania was sunk by a German boat. Peace treaties were imposed on the defeated nations. One such treaty was the Treaty of Versailles. So, Treaty of Versailles is a very important treaty. Let's read about this. Treaty of Versailles was imposed on Germany. Terms and conditions were decided by the victorious powers of the Big Four, as in the Woodrow Wilson of USA, Clemenceau. Now this is pronounced as Clemenceau, but the spelling is Clemenceau. Cemenceau, Clemenceau of France, V. Orlando of Italy, and Lloyd George of Britain. So Woodrow Wilson of USA, Clemenceau of France, V. Orlando of Italy, and Lloyd George of Britain decided the terms and conditions of this Treaty of Versailles. Germany was held responsible for the war and forced to pay $33 billion as reparations. Okay, so actually Germany was not in the picture anywhere, because the Sarajevo crisis occurred, and in the Sarajevo crisis, Austria blamed Serbia and Austria started the war. But here Germany was blamed. So the Treaty of Versailles was imposed in Germany, and Ger- Germany was held responsible for this war, and they were forced to pay $33 billion. Areas captured were returned back to the respective countries on the basis of national self-determination. Okay, so this big four, let's talk about the big four once again. Woodrow Wilson of USA, Clemenceau of France, V. Orlando of Italy, Lloyd George of Britain. Woodrow Wilson, USA, Clemenceau, France, V. Orlando, Italy, Lloyd George, Britain. So Lloyd George is British, Woodrow Wilson is from US, uh, Clemenceau is a French. He is from France, and V. Orlando is an Italian. So when we talk about V. Orlando, recall the pasta, because Italian pasta. British accent is very difficult, and Lloyd George, there are two L's, right? So it's kind of difficult to pronounce. So the pronunciation is different. The spelling is a bit different. So Lloyd George is from Britain. V. Orlando pasta, Italian pasta. Clemenceau is again, it is difficult to pronounce, and it is from France. So France is also not a very easy language. And Woodrow Wilson is from USA. German was held responsible $33 billion. This is done. Now, for example, Alsace-Lorraine was given to France in Schleswig to Denmark, Eupen-Malmedy to Belgium. So Alsace-Lorraine was given to France, in Schleswig was given to Denmark, and Eupen-Malmedy was given to Belgium. Huge chunk of territories was taken away. For example, Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. So Alsace-Lorraine was given to France. Here it was written that France was written somewhere. France wanted the return of Alsace and Lorraine because of aggressive nationalism. It was a cause, right? Long-term cause. So so Alsace-Lorraine was given to France in Schleswig. So Schleswig. So Schleswig to Denmark, Eupen-Malmedy to Belgium. Huge chunk of territories was taken away. Example, Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. A portion of Silesia was given to Poland. The port of Danzig became a free city under the control of the League of Nations. Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium for the next 10 years. So, Alsace and Lorraine was a part of Germany. We read in that story as well, last lesson. So, that was given, sorry, yes, that was given to France. No, it was a French story, so it was the context is different. Ens Schleswig was given to Denmark. Eupen Malmedy was given to Belgium. I think Alsace and Lorraine was returned back, right? So when Alsace and Lorraine was taken away from France by Germany, that in that we see that part only in the story last lesson. Um, where I was, yeah. So Alsace-Lorraine was given to France, Schleswig to Denmark, Eupen Malmedy to Belgium. Huge chunk of territories was taken away. Example, Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. So Saar Basin was handed over to France. So Alsace-Lorraine was given back to France, and Saar Basin of Germany was handed over to France. And Silesia, okay, was given to Poland. Port of Danzig became a free city. Danzig, okay, port of Danzig became a free city under the control of League of Nations. So it was no longer a part of any nation. It became a free city. Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium for the next 10 years. So since Germany was held responsible for the war, Germany now military power of Germany was also minimized. The Treaty of Versailles, yes, it was also minimized. Army was also reduced to 1 lakh, navy to 1,000, 15,000 men and 34 ships. Tank, aircraft, and submarines were banned. W. Rhineland was demilitarized. So Germany had to go through so many different processes, so many different injustices. The first one was uh, Alsace-Lorraine was given to France, and Schleswig was given to Denmark. Eupen Malmedy was given to Belgium. Huge chunk of territories was taken away. For example, Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. A portion of Silesia was given to Poland. The port of Danzig became a free city under the control of the League of Nations. Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium for the next 10 years. Military power was minimized, army was reduced to 1 lakh, navy to 15,000 men and 34 ships, tank, aircraft, and submarines were banned. W. Rhineland was demilitarized. Now, territorial rearrangements or changes in the political map of the world. Autocratic monarchies of Germany, Russia, Austria, Hungary collapsed. Ottoman rule in Turkey came to an end. Austria-Hungary were separated, they became independent states. Germany was forced to cede CD, whatever, Alsace-Lorraine to France, Eupen Malmedy to Belgium, and industrial. I think it should be send, or not send. Let me check the meaning. CED. Okay, said CED means to give up a territory. So Germany was forced to cede uh, Alsace-Lorraine to France, Eupen Malmedy to Belgium, and industrial areas of Silesia to Poland. New states were created on the basis of nationalism. Example: Finland, Poland, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Lithuania. Now, League of Nations. These are very complicated. You just need to remember some of the names. Like new states were created on the basis of nationalism, like Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. They have similar, pronunciations or spellings. Slavia, Slovakia. So Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia. Then Latvia, Lithuania. So remember these: Estonia, Finland, Poland. So Finland, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia. Okay, so remember like that. League of Nations. A peacekeeping world organization called the League of Nations was set up in 1920. Now, aims and objectives of the League of Nations. What are they? Maintain peace, prevent secret treaties, develop respect for international law, encourage mutual respect for each other's independence and peaceful settlement of disputes, encourage disarmament and international cooperation in social, economic, and cultural areas, protection of national minorities. So, here it is evident that because of this uh, aggressive nationalism, people developed an abhorrence, a hatred towards the other countries. That's why Germany was instructed or rather forced to cede the territories such as Alsace-Lorraine to France, Eupen Malmedy to Belgium, areas or industrial areas of Silesia to Poland. Then the Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. Then Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium. The country's military power was minimized. Tank, aircraft, and submarines were banned completely. W Rhineland was demilitarized. Then port of Danzig became a free city. Means it was not a part of any country anymore. It became a free city. So these caused a lot of resentment. These caused a lot of problems. That's why League of Nations was set up, and its main motto was to promote peace, and its main motto was to uh, make the people understand the importance of the or to make the people realize that the other country should also be respected. Only being patriotic to one's own country wouldn't help. Respecting others, the international laws and the international rules should also be important. So, aims and objectives are maintain peace, prevent secret treaties. So, secret treaties, secretive, not informing one another. These were banned, prevented. Then then they tried to develop respect for international law. Encourage, yeah, encourage mutual respect for each other's independence and peaceful settlement of disputes, encourage disarmament and international cooperation in social, economic, and cultural areas, protection of national minorities. So this was the first World War chapter has got completed. The main things in this chapter were the for the First World War was what? It was a 20th century event. It was very deadly. The war spanned for 4 years between 1914 and 1918. The two warring groups means the groups which were there in war. So they were warring basically. Two warring groups were the Allied powers and the Central powers. Allied powers had countries like Britain, France, Russia, and USA. Central powers mainly included Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Turkey. Now, the immediate cause was Sarajevo crisis. What happened in Sarajevo crisis? Archduke Francis Ferdinand, he was the Prince of Austria-Hungary. He visited Sarajevo and he was killed by a member of Black Hand who was Gavrilo Princip. And Austria held Serbia responsible for this. Now, Serbia accepted all the demands, and Austria made certain demands, 11 demands. Serbia accepted all the demands apart from those which affected its sovereignty. So Austria was not satisfied, and as a result, Austria attacked Serbia. Now, this was the immediate cause. Now, what are the long term causes? One is aggressive nationalism, love for one's own country, and hatred for others' countries. Then they started to look, they became very power hungry. They started to look for overseas territories, colonies, global status, regal fame, all of these. And then they also wanted increase in military powers. Germany hoped to dominate the world. France wanted return of Alsace and Lorraine. Serbia. So the Germany, the country who wanted to dominate the world, the same country was asked to give all its possessions, all its territories, all its basins. Which was the basin? Saar Basin, I think. Saar Basin, yes. Saar Basin. Then W Rhineland, it was demilitarized. Port of Danzig became a free city. Germany had to pay. Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium. So many things. So that same country, and France wanted the return of Alsace and Lorraine. That was fulfilled. Serbia wanted to create a pan-Slavic empire in the Balkan region. Okay, and there were unsatisfied nationalist spirit of the Poles, Bulgarians, Austria-Hungary in the Balkan region. Now, imperialism was another cause. Imperialism, in imperialism, what happened? Colonies provided raw materials as well as ready markets to the industrialized countries of Europe. So the countries followed imperialism. Those with less colonies were unhappy with those with more colonies. So basically, it's the same dispute over colonies. Imperialism basically means dispute over colonies. Yeah, they wanted to extend their empire, so that is imperialism. Militarism is search for economic power and global status, and that armament race is a part of this militarism. That if one country increased its arms, the other countries also started increasing its arms at that same moment almost. And because of this, the building deadly battleships, dreadnoughts, and these were included in this militarism. Then Germany digged the Kiel Canal. This was also included. And what else is there? Alliances. Alliances like the two warring groups. The two warring groups were Allied powers and Central powers. Allied powers are BRUF and Central powers are Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey. In a similar way, Triple Alliance, Triple Entente. Triple Alliance are Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy. There it was Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey. Here it is Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy. And Triple Entente is Britain, France, Russia. Only USA is excluded. So note the differences. The Triple Alliance is similar to Central Powers, and the Triple Entente is similar to the Allied Powers. Triple Alliance starts with A, Allied starts with A, but the similarity is not in that manner. Triple Alliance is similar to Central Powers, and Allied Powers is similar to Triple Entente. Now, Uh, these two alliances were formed. Tensions and disputes between the partners in each group was a major cause of the war. These things happened. Then the war was brought to a close in 1918. We studied that before also. 1914 to 1918, 4 years time span. So who got defeated? The Central Powers. Now here there are a lot of confusions. This line, the meaning of this line cannot be apprehended, cannot be comprehended well. Russia had pulled out a year before by the Treaty of Brest Litovsk. Probably Russia exited the war or something of that sort. And USA had joined in after the passenger liner Lusitania was sunk by a German boat. So these two events we need to check that what exactly happened. And because of this, because of these problems, because of these things, a treaty was signed, which was the Treaty of Versailles. So that Treaty of Versailles was only imposed on Germany, and Germany was forced to give all its possessions and territories. And who imposed this? The terms and conditions. Who decided? Woodrow Wilson of USA. And I told that British is a very difficult language. If you try to pronounce British, all the pronunciations will go wrong. So the way we speak normally, it's Indian English and a little bit it's a mixture of Indian English and USA English. But if you listen to British English, it's very different. So Lloyd George is double L. So it is not very. It doesn't match with the pronunciation, right? So Britain and France is another. French is also a very difficult language. So Clemenceau also, it doesn't match the spelling. CLEMEN, Clement. CEAU. Okay. And V Orlando is of Italy. So Italy is only left, so V Orlando. Now Germany was held responsible for the war and paid $33 billion, and all those territories. Alsace-Lorraine was given to France, and Schleswig was given to Denmark. Eupen Malmedy was given to Belgium. Right. So um, a huge chunk of territories was taken away. Saar Basin was handed over to France for the next 15 years. Silesia was given to Poland. Port of Danzig became a free city under the control of League of Nations. Germany had to supply free coal to France, Italy, and Belgium for the next 10 years. Military power was minimized. Army was reduced to 1 lakh. Navy to 15,000 men and 34 ships. Uh, Tank, aircraft, and submarines were banned. W. Rhineland was demilitarized. These things occurred, and finally, because of these, the League of Nations was formed in 1920. So in 1918, the war ended, and in 1920 only this League of Nations was created. It was set up. And what were the aims and objectives? Maintain peace, prevent secret treaties, develop respect for international law, encourage mutual respect for each other's independence and peaceful settlements of disputes, protection of national minorities, encourage disarmament. And so the armament race started. So disarmament means stopping the armament race, basically. Encourage armament and international cooperation in social, economic, and cultural areas. So the chapter has finally got completed.